Hello, this is Dr. Dave Masnock talking about reciprocity.com, the sharing economy proofreading platform that I am trying to build. The E is about the three. In this particular video, I really wanted to show you how you can come up with infinite number of ideas for writing, particularly if you're writing any sort of more academic-y type article, or if you're writing, you're looking for a new idea in anything that you're writing. This is a useful trick. This is something that was passed on to me from my advisors, and what it is, and then it was passed on to them from their advisors. They're at some really outstanding. There are some really outstanding advisors that use this, and some academics that use this. Uh, that they're some of the best of the people in the field, and they use this on a regular basis. This particular trick. And all it is creating a series of tables that help you sort of figure out where you stand within the existing ideas that are available. So I gave an example here. This is a sort of simple sort of set of tables that I do, or a simple table that I do whenever I look at previous work. What I do, and this is what I'm going to tell you in this particular video, is I'm going to go through exactly what this table is and how do you do it, and then finally provide some possible ways of how this could be very helpful for you with your own writing. So if you look here, I will look at the existing literature, the existing ideas on, so this is on user innovation. So what I did is I have the study, or the whoever's written the work, and the data that is used, the method that is used in the particular study, or whatever they're writing up, the findings of their study, or maybe it is, if you're doing maybe some fiction work, maybe it's the sort of story that they told, and then how it relates and the differences to your current work, or to my current paper, right? So I was looking at user innovation, which is how people sort of solve their unmet needs by just kind of doing everyday things. And one of the books that I really like and I read recently was Eric von Hippel. He's a professor at MIT. He's been there for a long time. You could look at some of my older videos. I do talk about him in a couple of videos before this, and I go in and talk about his work. And then I list, what's the data that they use in that particular study. So here, for example, I talk about the kayaking industry. They use surveys, and they have X number of subjects in that study. So you can also do the same thing in talking about the particular setting that the work is about. So that's all data is really talking about. What is the setting of the study? So maybe it is, you're looking at nonfiction, you're doing something about vampires, right? And there's a lot of work on vampires. So maybe you look at this setting, everybody's doing stuff at nighttime, for example, or at a high school, for example. Then you can go and list the different methods that are being used. So this is probably more on the sort of research side, where you can list the different method that we use. So there's a survey, there's quantitative, they used regression and Nova methodology. I won't get into those, but just know that it's a type of method. And then the particular findings that they had. What was the sort of point of the paper? What did they find? So, 5 to 10% of all innovations are created by users. These kind of findings like this, I just dreamt that up, and just to put that in there. But that's roughly about what it is. A lot of innovations are created by users. Actually, I think that number is much more higher. But anyways, this is more on the consumer innovation, people that are just doing kind of things in their house and doing sort of user innovation for things in their house. But anyways, and they're motivated by joy and learning. They're just doing it just because they want to, right? Then over here, you can get into how it relates to your current paper, your current idea, right? So user innovation, let's say I'm writing a paper on motivations, and it relates because it's about user innovation and it is about motivations. Then you can sort of get into, my paper is using sort of experimental methodology. They use surveys. So we can look at the differences. Why is that important? They have more internal validity. experiments has more internal validity for X, Y, and Z reasons. You can also suggest, so if everybody, so coming back to the vampire suggestion or idea, if everybody's doing a story about vampires in high school, maybe you can look at vampires in a senior's home. That might be kind of a goofy sort of take on it, but it might be a lot of fun, right? So you could do something about senior citizens and some of them being vampires and maybe taking over the world or something like that. It could be a lot of fun. And that's how you sort of carve out a niche or a niche with what you're doing compared to what everybody else is doing. And you could sort of fill it out as you go. So then you might add some more studies here. Maybe you do 5 to 10 different studies or 5 to different books in your area. And then you quickly realize that there's patterns that emerge from that. And then you can record the patterns in sort of a summary, right? So a summary of the key points. And say, for example, everybody else is doing surveys. 4 out of 5 of them are quantitative. And they're all focused on, maybe they're all focused on user innovation. Maybe I want to be focused on free innovation. So you can carve out how to actually write that up. So what you can then do is start your study or start your paper, start your book, whatever you're doing, is sort of highlighting this is what everybody else is doing and this is what I am doing, right? So I'm doing something different. So maybe qualitative methods, for example. And then you can write, for example, everybody else is doing all this kind of stuff and I'm doing this. And that kind of gets you started. And it really, particularly if you're writing a paper, an academic paper, it really gets you going because then you know where everybody else stands. You have to write what everybody else is doing and then build your study on what everybody else is doing. It's kind of a nice trick. It's really, really helpful to get you going. In fact, I do this with every single one of my papers. It's kind of the first thing that I will do. The first thing whenever I'm writing my own work is I put out tables like this and I start doing them. And you don't have to show everybody these tables, but they help you sort of go along and make sense of what's already available. And the tables are really, really useful. I can't stress that enough, that they help you sort of understand what's going on in the current landscape and what everybody else is writing, right? So that's all I wanted to say. It's a really useful trick. And this is why I'm going to suggest why it's so useful and you should try it out, is that it helps you carve out your own existing niche or your own niche and where you can do something that's not going to duplicate efforts. And this will either, it's either going to help you sort of carve out a research gap in the existing literature if you're doing research, and it will help you find out where you can actually carve out, if you're doing, say, fiction work and you're doing stuff on vampires, for example, you can carve out what sort of a niche that nobody else is doing and then generate an audience from that if you continue to push that out. So maybe you'll eventually start attracting senior citizens that are interested in, interested in zombies taking over the world or vampires taking over the world. It's kind of fun, but that's how you carve out a niche. And you can carve that out, you can keep writing in that particular area, and pretty soon you have a series of work in that particular area that is quite useful or people might find that are useful, right? So that's why I suggest to do this. Then you can, once you have an audience, you can grow and prosper and sort of reflect on what this audience likes. And that's basically what it is when you're doing any sort of writing. You're just building an audience and finding people that are interested in what you're doing, whether it's academic or sort of fiction writing or whatever it is, fan fiction writing, whatever it is. That's what you're trying to carve out, right? So thank you so much. I appreciate you listening all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you found this useful. It's a useful trick that I like to do. It was passed on to me, and hopefully I'm passing it on to you so you can like it, or you can find it useful as well. So if you did find this video useful, make sure you do an old thumbs up. You can watch some old videos. I do put out stuff like this as well. Hopefully you find that useful. You can check out the Reciprocity Project. The E is spelled with a 3, so it's reciprocity.com. And what I'm doing is trying to create a sharing economy proofreading platform. And it's slowly growing, slowly getting better, bigger and better as I keep pushing these out and putting out these YouTube videos. And that's all I wanted to say. Take care, have a good day, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.